What's up guys, Kevin Cage here. I want to get right into it today to say that these 3 video clips that I'm about to show you are important is the understatement of the century. When you are watching these clips, please consider what we know for the US dollar and the threat as the global reserve currency, the BRICS nations. We can talk about the never-ending printing of the Federal Reserve. All of this is pointing towards other means of payments. Now we can talk about XRP, XLM, any other digital asset for that matter, referring to the correspondent banking network being built 40 years ago, pre-internet, pre-digital era. How are they able to continue on without updating the systems? Well, it's happening sooner than later, just like Christine Lagarde says, the president of the European Central Bank, formerly the director of the IMF, says, in economics, things take longer than you think they will. And once they happen faster than you think they could. Pay close attention, listen to this, and please watch until the end and I'll give you guys a good laugh as well.
Support it. So the belief is that the supply of Bitcoins is fixed at 21 million, that's all that there can ever be. And in fact, I told you this 5 minutes ago. And this is true if you look at the Bitcoin code and so forth, but the reality is that that code can be changed. The blockchain can be forked if 51% of the people agree to go down a fork. So somebody tonight could say, let's change it from...
And we're going to specifically mention the amount of money it could take to hypothetically just take over the Bitcoin network altogether.
21 million to 30 million. And if you can get 30% or 50% of the people to follow you in the direction of a different limit, the 21 million would be gone. What this reduces to is essentially mob politics, that anyone who can get 51% to go down that fork, and we've seen a lot of politicians around the world get people to follow them for crazy policies. We don't need to name any names, but some should come to mind pretty quickly. I told this to the central bankers, that this is monetary policy by the mob. They're trying to replace you with rabble-rousing.
And I think central banks are, the mob anyways. I think we know that.
Charlatans, and they all...
Now, when I show you this next clip, they're going to talk about the amount of money it takes to essentially take over the Bitcoin network. And yes, this valuation fluctuates all the time. But when you consider what the Federal Reserve can do, if you know anything about fractional reserve banking and QE today, you would understand that that feat is not unheard of, nor impossible, specifically regarding a national security threat.
Plus one machine. And what's governance mean? If you wanted to crash the Bitcoin network, you just need to double the network plus one machine. And then you have 51% by yourself, right? Now, what would this cost? $200 million of hardware? And this seems to be an arbitrage condition.
So $200 million to take over the entire Bitcoin network. Now, I know this is an older video clip, but it's still relevant, even if it was $1 billion. If you know what the printing is, the type of printing that is going on in this type of transfer of wealth we're witnessing, it is not unheard of. Could you imagine a few groups, countries, or even a single central government to do this?
That is somehow violated in the market. Who would have a motivation to do this? It's not hard to think of people, like Chairman Kim, Chairman Putin, ISIS, whoever. I think that there's an inherent weakness in these open networks in that you can get yourself a majority if you're willing to pay enough. And if this thing becomes a serious currency used in the Western world, there are plenty of enemies who would take it down like that based on the current governance. And this is something that you might be considering.
And I know you guys might believe that, Bitcoin was wholeheartedly created originally by some random, guys. In my opinion, I think this has been an inside job. Just my opinion. I could be wrong. And another quote that I think X Anderson shared, and this is referring to Ripple, in my opinion, to me, you can't lose the game if it's their game from the beginning. And I think you guys understand what I'm alluding towards and the connections that I'm alluding towards. Now, listen to this. This is Stephen Thomas, formerly of Ripple. Now he's leading Coil. And then we have Chris Larson, executive chairman of Ripple. And they discuss, actually starting a Bitcoin validator as well, redoing the code entirely and talking about the limitations of BTC versus XRP. Now, if Bitcoin wants to succeed, be a store of value, bring attention to the crypto space, awesome. I love it. I wish you guys well. I typically, every time I get a lot of Bitcoin, I usually sell it for another altcoin just because I'm here for a return and I think that other alts are more volatile. But I am just betting big that XRP and some other assets are going to solve the payments issue in the ecosystem today by working with the system, not trying to replace it on the outside, literally working with regulators, working with remittance and financial institutions and money service businesses, and working on the inside, talking to customers and just solving problems like a true business.
There in order to address the double spending problem. So I was just curious, like in your own words, how does that XRP address the double spend problem?
So how does XRP address the double spend problem?
It's just a confirmation between the two nodes.
Yeah. So if you're not technical, please, do something else for a little bit. Because there's no way to answer that question without getting into some of the technology. So Bitcoin uses a consensus process, which is essentially based around the assumption that a majority of hashing power will never be held by a coordinated malicious attacker. And so if you're watching what the majority of hashing power is doing, you'll tend to be on a state of the network that is reasonable and doesn't contain, reverted transactions and so on. However, the protocol as such does allow rollbacks, right? So you can, if somebody else presents you with a chain that's longer, has more hashing power behind it, you will roll back your transactions and switch to.
So Bitcoin can essentially roll back entire transactions over the network. The XRP ledger cannot do that. They built this with that in mind, and it does not have that limitation whatsoever. And of course, you're going to see typical FUDsters saying that XRP can roll back transactions, it can control all of it. That is complete and utter nonsense.
To that. And I know that because I was one of the first people to implement a full node Bitcoin reimplementation from scratch. So I wrote that code, and it's very complex, annoying code to write. So
I think I would listen to Stefan here, since he actually re-implemented the entire code from scratch. And yet you guys are listening to others that don't even do their own research about XRP. Just keep that in mind.
I'll remember that forever. On the Ripple side, such code does not exist. There's no way to roll back the network.
And I know you've heard David Schwartz, CTO of Ripple. A lot of people discuss this. Just wanted to show you, again, video proof instead of just listening to me rant about this nonsense. All right? Next, so XRP Crypto Wolf just sharing this in recent news. So national banks may provide banking services to any lawful cryptocurrency businesses. The U.S. Office of the Comptroller of Currency, Brian Brooks, keep in mind, formerly at Coinbase. And remember, even in that recent, what was it, a couple videos ago, maybe a month or two ago, he literally mentioned Ripple and Chris Larsen, just name dropping them on a conference call and saying, yeah, what they're doing with Swift. And they mentioned like 95% cost reduction. Come on now, name dropped by the acting comptroller of the currency, the guy that oversees the entire banking system for the United States. That is not coincidental. If you guys know the caliber of people that are in this game, you should be able to read between the lines. Has given the green light for national banks and federal savings associations to hold reserves for stablecoin issuers. Interesting, stablecoins. We have the Central Bank of France, remember back in maybe February of this year, reference Ethereum and the XRP ledger could be used to build stablecoins off of CBDCs. That is not coincidental. Just understand there's very few legitimate proof of concepts for Bitcoin, and Bitcoin maxis, they don't get it because they don't know about Project Lynx. They don't know about Project Inthenon. They don't know all of these projects and proof of concepts, POCs, with central banks, the top banks in the world that are actually testing with Interledger Protocol. FYI, that was created by Ripple. There are no coincidences in this space. Just understand what you hold, all right? So keep in mind, stablecoins, even algorithmic stablecoins, are the future. I'm not the biggest fan of Tether per se. I'd much rather hold USDC, but there's going to be other coins instead of based off trust that are going to be based off of cold, hard mathematics, programmable money. Now, what I want to show you is this article from 2019. This is on payments.canada, payments.ca, and how cross-border payments are evolving. This is super relevant, has tons of golden info right here, gold nugs, I should say. And so this was originally shared by Matthew Liny. Definite follow if you are in the XRP community. Follow this guy on Twitter right now. Same thing goes for Ganesh Hiramath. All right. So I'm going to reference this. So right here, breaking: XRP mentioned as a stablecoin by Payments Canada in 2019. Remember, Ripple was calling them crypto assets. Shortly after, what happens? The central banks start calling them crypto assets because Ripple's been here in the beginning, informing the IMF, World Bank, and Bank of International Settlements, which is the central bank of central banks, on all the policy and and how this technology works and how it can integrate with the current system, and private and public can work together. It's clear as day to me. But keep in mind, I do have some confirmation bias because I've researched a lot and I own XRP. So thanks to Matthew Liny. You guys can find all of this here. I'm just going to start off right here because it's easier to see. So Stablecoins for cross-border payments, relatively stable. Two digital currencies that fall into this category are RippleNet's native digital currency, XRP, on the XRP ledger, and Stellar Networks' native currency, XLM, the Stellar Lumen. Both Ripple and Stellar enable fast and more efficient cross-border payments relative to correspondent banking. And yes, it doesn't really take much to improve the correspondent banking network in terms of technology because it's so inefficient. But again, these are revolutionary technologies. However, just like I believe they're brother and sister currencies and complementary, they can work together because there's a lot of issues in the existing framework that need help. They differ in that Ripple is focused on improving cross-border settlements between international banks, so wholesale, whereas Stellar is focused on providing low-cost cross-border payment financial services to the end user in the unbanked population. Interesting. So more retail use case. Now, not that they can't delve into both use cases, but just notice the primary focus of these initiatives are wholesale and retail. All right. And don't get me started even on web monetization and streaming of payments and micro payments. This is where the space is going, period. Okay, and then right here, this is very important for many newcomers to understand. Notice central bank digital currency, CBDCs, private label digital currencies, which can be broken down into, so there's a variety of type. Notice XRP and XLM are public, full, open digital currencies, including stablecoins. We can have stablecoins being built up on top of them. They can transfer stablecoins, they can run parallel, etc. Private companies issued, because they're trying to keep up with the race, Facebook's Libra. Again, I am not threatened by it, but you never know how quick this could move up. It is not even open sourced. It is completely controlled. It is just a database of IOUs. It is not true technology. It's just a means of controlling, and it's a business. They have their motives for profit. Right here, commercial bank issued closed system digital currencies, JP Morgan coin and USC, the utility settlement coin, by a variety of groups, such as UBS, which is another RippleNet partner. This does not solve the issue of trust today. There's a variety of ways you can look at this and check it off, and there's going to be trade-offs between each of these. My bet is that maybe all three of these survive and thrive, and they have their own use case and their own portion of market share. Interesting. All right. So I want to look at this really quick. The cross-border transactions have accounted for $23.7 trillion globally in 2018. E-commerce, B2B, P2B, cross-border retail payments, a need on cross-border payment activities. In recent years, we're seeing more acquisitions than ever before in the payment space. We are seeing obviously a push for RTP, which is real-time payments. We're seeing all of this. And then right here, what I was referencing even here, look, additional projects, Jasper and Ubin, JP Morgan's Interbank Information Network. And remember, XRP, even JPM coin, all of these assets were named at what? The World Economic Forum. The 1% of the 1% meet there annually. There are no coincidences. So if GPI essentially stole Ripple's first product, which is XCurrent, luckily XRP will do the job that none of these can by eliminating the pre-funded accounts. All of this other technology, they're just trying to keep up, and they won't be able to, because guess what? There is a network that is open and permissionless that is 8 years ahead of them. They're a behemoth. They're not going away. There's not going to be some player that comes out of nowhere and takes over. There's going to be multiple players. They're each going to have their own preference. Just like today, we have a variety of players today. It's not just Apple. It's not just Samsung. Keep that in mind. All right. So cross-border payments, talking about, again, the 23.7 trillion. You can speed through all of this, look at a variety of things. I'm going to do Control F for XRP just to show you. So we've talked about this. Cross-border payments by transferring XRP through the Ripple network, resulting in on-demand liquidity. Payments using Ripple are essentially the Ripple gateways transacting XRP. Talking about the fees, meaning the total supply of XRP decreases over time and in theory maintains its value. Same concept, speaking very highly of the TPS, the scalability of XLM. Notice Barclays Africa and Deloitte. Deloitte, one of the big four, helped with Ripple and their gateway as well in their T24 stack. Just read between the lines. I just recommend, don't take my word for it. Read this and you will soon see that since these were some of the first movers in this ecosystem, they are levels ahead of the competition. All right, last but not least, I wanted to show you live footage of, as we know, the XRP ledger is very, very versatile. It can send a variety of assets, tokenized gold, tokenized real estate, a stock, shares of these companies. It can even send other crypto assets over the XRP ledger. And yes, XRP is still needed because there's a finite supply to control the network. to protect the network and mitigate risk and obviously prevent spam. So if you guys want a good laugh, this is live footage of the XRP ledger moving a single Bitcoin in front of our eyes. I wish I could play I Believe I Can Fly right now, but I definitely get a copyright strike. Notice, they're just helping Bitcoin cross the road to avoid getting hit by a car. There's no double spend issues, and you're going to see about how happy he is when he gets to his destination on the tree. You're going to see him smile. It is absolutely adorable. And this can also be basically analogous to payments today being so sluggish. The XRPL is that highway that can just assist this transfer. Notice Bitcoin can be a happy store of value in the tree. I just think that it could use some help regarding transfer speed, cost, security. Look at that smile. That is just my belief, guys. And I know you can agree, or at least tend to agree, in the superiority of technology. The XRP just helps and complements all of these assets. It is not necessarily a disruptor. I want to start calling it an enabler of all of this. Ripple being a payments company that utilizes blockchain tech. And remember, DLT, distributed ledger technology, is basically the parent of it all. Blockchain is just a subset, one little part of it. But in recent years, blockchain and DLT are used interchangeably. Just understand that blockchain is just one portion of DLT, distributed ledger technology. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts down below. Be sure to share this around with anybody that is looking to get into XRP XLM crypto assets, and I will see you in the next video.